What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars. Today I am joined by my good buddy Anthony A. Perez for a very special review. Today actually marks my 1000th film review on the channel. That is individual film review. I have reviewed some films here and there more than once on the channel, but this list of 1000 movies does not count doubles. It also should be noted that this doesn't count the written reviews that I've done outside of my YouTube channel, so just here on the channel. You can see this list of films on a letterboxd list that I've created, and I've left a link to that in my description box down below. On top of all that, today it just so happens to be the 4th of July. That's just how things worked out. Anyway, to commemorate my 1000th review, I thought it would be appropriate to check out Eddie Murphy's 2012 dramedy, 1000 Words. Let's get cracking. 1000 Words stars Eddie Murphy as a fast-talking literary agent whose life gets turned upside down when a magical tree appears in his front yard holding 1000 leaves, each of which represent his final words. Every word that he speaks, a corresponding leaf also falls to the ground. Once the tree runs out of leaves, it, as well as he, dies. So this businessman does his best to stay as silent as humanly possible, which he soon learns is not as easy as it appears. Before I head on with my review, gotta give Anthony a huge shout out and thanks for joining me once again to talk about a film. We previously talked about Tenacious D, The Pick of Destiny. You can find that review on the channel as well. But I am beyond grateful for you joining me today, Anthony, as you're a big part of my continued effort to keep the channel alive, and I've made it to 1000 reviews, which is absolutely nuts to even comprehend. Pretty soon, my reviews will be dying down a little bit because I've just accepted a full-time position at another job, which will take a lot of my time away from YouTube. So this review couldn't have come at a better time. But yep, we'll be hearing Anthony's thoughts on the film in just a hot second. But first, here's some of my thoughts on 1000 Words. In general, I really do like this movie. It's highly flawed, and it's one of those Eddie Murphy family geared films that I have seen people scoff at over the years. Critics have talked mad crap about it by basically saying you took Eddie Murphy's comedic gift and you stripped him of it for this film, meaning that he's known for his words and his cadence, which he wasn't allowed to have in the film. And while that's somewhat true, I think that this is just one of those things that you kind of have to look at as a glass half full type of thing, not empty. By taking away his comedic gift that he's usually known for, it actually allows him to challenge himself a little bit to do something more physical, not unlike Mr. Bean. So there's a lot of miming going on, a lot of really exaggerated facial expressions going on here and there that are legitimately funny. It's not at the level of Mr. Bean, who was more natural at the type of thing than anybody on the planet, but Eddie Murphy is still pretty good at it, which goes to prove that he is multi-talented in terms of comedy, and that was just one thing that never really bothered me. It actually helped the film, believe it or not, stand out as different because it dared to have him do something he doesn't usually do. As per usual with films like this, Eddie Murphy's dramedies usually have a good balance of both humor and drama alike. And I think that there's both some really good things and bad things to be found in that department. And that's something that I'll let Anthony talk about here because it's something that I 100% agree with him on. So Anthony, my friend, take it away.
Dave, 1000 reviews, my friend. Congratulations, and a big thanks to you for inviting me here on your channel to commemorate or celebrate or just be a part of this huge milestone with you. Awesome, man. 1000 reviews. That's a lot of videos, and hopefully one day soon I'll be catching up to you as well. But 1000 reviews is an amazing thing, and it was even better that you asked me to join you on a movie that has 1000 in the title. So 1000 Words. This is a movie that I texted you about as soon as I started watching it, saying, you know what, I've seen this movie before back when it originally released, and I had completely forgotten the title, and I knew how the film generally ended, but I didn't really remember the journey. And as a fan of Eddie Murphy and a fan of comedies that have a dramatic edge to them, I was all in. I was definitely excited to see where this movie was going to go and how I was going to feel about it all these years later. After having seen the movie again, what I could say about this movie is that I did enjoy it, but this feels like the kind of movie that was just ripe with potential and ultimately just had a lot of really odd choices that didn't fully work for me. Let's start this off by talking about Eddie Murphy, who I think is great in the role in the lead character, but he does play a very similar performance to we've seen in other movies, something like The Haunted Mansion, where he plays a silly businessman who takes everything pretty seriously. And we've seen that role done by him on various occasions. And outside of him, you have a great cast of people like Cliff Curtis and Kerry Washington and Clark Duke, all actors and actresses that I've seen in countless other things and have always enjoyed the performances. And for the most part, I think everybody here gives a solid performance that's within the tone of what the film is asking for. Along with that, you have a central story that I think does work, that is, really about the power of words, the power of silence, recognizing sometimes that there are these things that hold us back from being the best version of ourselves, that make us angry, that make us sad, that do taint who we are, and that does affect the people around us at the same time. Sometimes also recognizing that there's a power in the silence, ultimately. There's a power in being able to just take a moment, shut up, and listen to the things around you and observe the things around you, and how more often than not, when you do that, you start to recognize where you could maybe, work a little harder in some areas, or where you could put a little bit more effort to make something better for someone else in your life. There's a lot of really great messages and themes in this movie that I do think genuinely work, but I do think that the journey overall sometimes undercuts that overall messaging and theming. And I think that really what this movie kind of had for me was an imbalance of comedy and drama. There were often times throughout the course of the film where the movie got really dramatic, especially in the last 20 minutes or so as they're trying to wrap up the story and giving Eddie Murphy's character far more to do and lean into to get, more emotional with his wife and different things like that, and start to kind of pay his dues in a lot of ways, reconnect with his mother, recognizing that his father leaving him was a traumatic thing in his life and has been weighing him down for all these years, and just even doing small things for the everyday person that he would come across. However, over the course of the movie, there just feels like there's all these little moments where we're wasting time. You have this character who has a limited amount of time when it comes to being able to speak and using those words wisely, but oftentimes over the course of the film just utilizes that time to kind of have these, silly meetings with people where he can't speak and he's trying to do a game of charades, and it's supposed to be this comedic bit, but then when he has a scene with his wife, he won't tell her anything that's going on. He won't kind of involve her in the situation. He won't use the words he has to save his relationship and to give her an explanation of what's going on. But he wastes that explanation on somebody like, his intern or his assistant, who has to sit there and, understand what he's trying to say with the tree that's losing the leaves. And there was oftentimes this feeling in my head of just like, why not utilize this time for your wife? Then there's even parts of the movie where he's cursing at or talking to the tree when he's out there with the tree by himself, and later on gets drunk and just starts talking like crazy because he's already lost his wife. Meanwhile, he could have used even just a small little snippet of time to take his wife out to this tree and just use those words he's been wasting to tell her what's going on. And I think that there's so many moments in this movie that oftentimes just undercut what the theming and the messaging of this film is. I do think it wraps up nicely, but I do think the journey to get there had a lot of really strange choices and scenes that oftentimes felt rather unnecessary and took me out from the overall picture. This is a movie that I think should have leaned a little bit more dramatic than comedic. I don't mind the comedy, but I do think that because of what they're trying to convey with the overall picture, the end is often undercut, like I said, by the comedy and the wasting of words and wasting of time that we have over the course of the film. So that's going to be my thoughts on 1,000 Words. Again, a big thanks to Dave for inviting me here for his 1,000th review. Always a pleasure to be here on the channel, my friend, and I'm very, very happy that you've hit this milestone. I'll go ahead and pass it back on to you, Dave. Again, a big thanks.
Thank you once again to Anthony for joining me to talk about 1,000 Words. I wanted to throw it your way, specifically because of the things that you mentioned in terms of the drama of the film and the messages that it has going for it, because you nailed it right on the head there. There really is a ton of potential in this film in terms of what it was trying to convey, but the execution was never really all that great, because the majority of that message that it was going for was saved for the final 20 minutes of the film or so, and everything that came before it was mostly just that humor that took away from the message. It wasn't a good enough balance between the comedy and the drama. The end is great, I will say that. We just needed more of that throughout the film. Also, Anthony, I couldn't have said it better myself in terms of the people that he chooses to talk to about the tree with. Like his coworkers, he talks about it with assistants, the guru guy in the film. The tree itself he talks to, and any one of these people and things were unimportant. He chooses instead to be the most silent with his spouse, which ruins the relationship, and it's so uneven as to why he'd shut his mouth around her, but not these other completely random people that mean absolutely nothing to him at the end of the day. Without even meaning to, the film accidentally shows that this character is really untrusting of the people that are closest to him and way too trusting of people that should mean nothing to him. That alone is a significant issue with the film's message, but at the end of the day, it does seem to work itself out because I did enjoy the ending, and as a general rule, I do like the film quite a bit more than most have, at least historically speaking. I rated it 1,000 words, a B- letter grade, final overall score of 71%, 71 out of 100 possible stars. In general, that's a score that just, at least to me, shouts, it's fine. It's decent in parts, it could be better in others, it's memorable in concept, it's forgettable in execution, all that. It has its moments, of course, but it could be better. I've left a link to Anthony's channel in my description box down below, by the way, so make sure that you head over there, show him some love, tell him who sent you. And everybody else, let me know what you thought about 1,000 words in the comment section down below. Did you see it? Did you not? Are you a fan of Eddie Murphy's more family-geared type of films like this that are either comedy, dramedy, or anywhere in that ballpark? And if you are, which one is your favorite? As for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.